guys, and welcome to another wrap-up. So the first wrap-up that I did for the month of February was for my TBR game that I did, which was the Catwalk TBR game. I participated in a couple of very low-key, if I was able to fit a book for a prompt, I did. I tried to participate in a couple of readathons, so I've got a couple of wrap-ups. And there's even more readathons in March that I want to try to participate in. So we'll see how this goes in March. I don't know. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is, and I'm blanking on the Discord, but there's a Discord group that I'm a part of. I'm not very active on it, but they were doing a Festival of Love TBR. So I wrote down the prompts, and I thought if I can fulfill the prompts, I definitely will. So I did not complete every prompt, which is completely fine. So let's go ahead and get into what these prompts were, if I was able to complete it, and if I was, what book, and all of that. So prompt number 1 was Star, and this was to read a book with stars on the cover. For this one, I went with a middle grade. And I went with A Tangle of Spells. This is the 3rd book in the A Pinch of Magic series by Michelle Harrison. This, it's kind of hard to see, but there you go, you can see that a little bit better. These are stars, so this definitely fulfills that prompt. So we're following these Woodersham sisters. They're in this area where there's a lot of superstition about witches, and things start to happen. Certain people aren't acting like themselves, and people are in danger, and so they're trying to save people. People aren't who they appear to be, and there's a lot of secrets, so they're uncovering secrets in this. There's a lot of witchcraft in this, and I loved it. This is my favorite book so far in the A Pinch of Magic series, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The black cat here, his name is Oi, definitely has more of an appearance in this book, and I loved it. So I gave this one 5 stars. Absolutely loved this book. Next up, the second prompt was Roses, and that's to read a book with flowers on the cover. For this one, I went with... This does have flowers. Yes, it does. Yeah, okay. I went with Two Wicked Desserts by Lynn Cahoon. So there's like a lilac bush here, and so they've got, you know, little lilac buds there. And there's also flowers in the budding in the trees, tree branches up above. So this definitely counts. This is book 2 in the Kitchen Witch Mystery series. This one we're following Mia. She's purchased a school, is converting it into a kind of a catering business. She loves to cook, and she's a witch. She does magic, and she channels her magic into the cooking type of a thing, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's your standard cozy mystery. Dead body shows up, and the main character inserts themselves into the investigation because they think the police generally are not doing a good enough job, or they've missed some key things, and they just go from there. So I thoroughly enjoy this one. I gave this one 4 stars, and I look forward to continuing. The next book is a novella, so it'll be good to read a short book after that one. Prompt number 3 was Uncovered. This is to read a book that is beautiful under the dust jacket. Most of the books I read were either ebooks or paperback books, so that just did not fit the option. I have 1 hardback for the month. I'm looking at my stacks of books around me. I have 1 hardback, but it's a book of the month, and so I don't consider them beautiful under the dust jacket, so I definitely don't have anything to fit that prompt. Everything else has been paperback or ebook for this month, so let's go ahead and move on. Prompt number 4 is Heart. This is to read a book with hearts on the cover or in the title. I didn't fulfill that one. I didn't have a book that I've read that fit that as I read throughout the month. Yeah, and there's a total of 11 prompts, I think, for this one. So yeah, I didn't get to it. Moving on, prompt number 5 is Warm. Warm Fuzzy. This is to read a cute, cozy, or fluffy book. This one I went with a middle grade, And I went with book number 10 in the Phoebe and Her Unicorn series. This one is called The Unicorn Whisperer. This was written by Dana Simpson. And there's no plot. You're just following Phoebe and her best friend Marigold, who happens to be a unicorn, as they go on various adventures. That can be from writing book reports to going and visiting trolls or dragons, and what else, to camp, to dealing with rain. You have different seasons, having slumber parties, and things like that. So there's just, you know, like maybe 1 or 2 pages has a little kind of very thin plot line going through it, but this just basically a comic series, and it's just very cozy, and I love the art in it. Dana Simpson does a fabulous job with this series. I have the next 3, and then I think there's 2 or 3 more after the next 3. So I think there's a total of like 6 more books after, so 16 or 17 in the series. And I don't know how long of a series it's going to be, but I am having the time of my life with it. Definitely a fluffy, fuzzy, fun read. So that's it. Yeah. Not much to say because there's not an underlying plot. And Phoebe in this is like in 4th or 5th grade, and she never ages. They are always the same age. Next prompt. So prompt number 6 is a romance. This is to read a romance book. For this one, I went with a book on my Kindle. I went with The White City. This is book number 1 in the True Colors series. Each book is written by a separate author. Now, Grace Hitchcock is the author of The White City, which is book number 1, and it's Grace's debut book as well. Grace has also written another book in the series. I don't know the title right off, but I have been informed by someone who watched my TBR video before that you can read these in any order in this series, the True Colors series. You can read them in any order. They take a real life event that happened in American history, and they kind of fictionalize it in a way, and that's what this is. So The White City takes place in Chicago. It follows, there's a little bit of a romance in it, and I gave this one 3 stars. I just felt like it was a little short, that there were some things that could be expanded upon. The big thing is that you have this lady who thinks she witnesses a kidnapping by someone named Holmes, who turns out actually did exist, and Holmes is the real character in this. And Holmes was a serial killer, and so the main character that you're following is a part of society where, like, her aunt, or back in the day, they would, you know, be very encouraged to court people of a certain standing and certain wealth, and that is definitely in this. And sometimes people fall in love with someone that their family says they shouldn't fall in love with. That's talked about, but the big thing is that Winnie is her name, Winifred. She goes by Winnie. She gets permission from her dad, who's like the chief of police in Chicago, and to investigate and become the secretary for Mr. Holmes and try to find clues to see if he is really involved in kidnapping people in women's disappearances. So you follow her as she does that. This also, the White City aspect that's in Chicago is this fair that was going on, and they had the very first Ferris wheel, what we know as the Ferris wheel. And so I do remember reading a nonfiction book about that, where the Ferris wheel was an attempt to kind of outdo the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So it was interesting. But yeah, so The White City, I gave it 3 stars. I just felt like it was just there could have been a little bit more expansion in it. Definitely could be a little bit longer. I think it was like 267 pages, so fairly short, and I do feel like it could have had a little bit more in there. Prompt number 7 was Blind. Read a book you know next to nothing about. So this one I went with a series that's been on my shelf for a while, and all I knew it was dystopian, and that's it. The Selection by Kiera. This is the first book in a series. We're following America's Singer. There's this big event where girls have to submit an application for the process of a selection, where they go and live in the palace. These girls are all different caste systems, so anything from like a 2 down to a 8 or something like that. And the lower your number, so like a 2, your life is more well off than those who are in like a status level 5 or 4. And America is a 4 or a 5, and she was in love with someone who was a 5 or 6, who's one cast lower level than she is. Anyway, so she is selected, her application is drawn, she is encouraged. She doesn't want to submit an application, but she is highly encouraged by several people to submit an application, and her application is picked, so she has to go live in the palace and with a bunch of other girls, and this is basically the prince is courting these girls and goes on dates, and basically he is looking to find to find the queen. This is the prince. So he is looking to find his queen, and we'll have to pick from these girls that are selected, and it goes from there. And America is she doesn't put on a front. She is very much true to herself. She is blunt, and she tells it like it is and how she really feels. And you get the feeling that it is a very refreshing thing for the prince, because obviously people want to sugarcoat things and not tell them like it is and tell them the full truth of things when things are not so good. So I enjoyed this one. I gave this one a 4 stars and look forward to continuing the series. Prompt number 8 was music, and this is to read a book with a song title in the title or a book with a musician. I have a book that has music, but that's still sitting on my bookcase, and I just didn't get to it. As far as a book with the song title, I have no idea on that. No idea. Anyway, okay. Prompt number 9 is Diamond. This is to read a book with a gemstone in the title or on the cover. I don't think I own a book that has a gemstone in the title or on the cover. I don't know. I didn't delve deep enough, and I just didn't get to it, so doesn't matter. Prompt number 10 is Love. Read a book with love in the title. I'm sure I have a book or two at least that has that word in the title, but I didn't get to it. The last prompt was aphrodisiac, and basically an aphrodisiac is something that heightens your libido or your sexual desire, or can do that. I really don't know much about them. That's just what I've heard about them. So prompt number 11 is aphrodisiac. This is to read a book with a common aphrodisiac on the cover or in the title. I know chocolate is one. None of the books that I've read really have food on the cover. I mean, Two Wicked Desserts does, but I don't know if anything here, because it looks like there's carrots, lettuce, onions, garlic, mushroom, apple. I think this is the only one that I've read that really has food on the cover. But I did have a library book, and it has croissants and coffee. Croissants are not considered an aphrodisiac, but coffee is. I googled it. It says coffee and chocolate. Coffee is an aphrodisiac. So it's not, so it's a drink, but it's still an aphrodisiac. And it doesn't say if it has to be food or a drink. So it's a drink. So anyway, I went with If You Ask Me by Libby Hubscher, I'm guessing is how you say that. I'm not sure. So this is a library book. This is a romance. At my library, this is selected as reader's choice, so it did come with a ballot. I rated this one 4 stars. If my ballot is drawn, I'll win a $30 gift card to I don't know where, but why not? And this particular one is a clean romance. It's closed door. I did not know going into this if this was going to have any smut or spice or sexually explicit scenes. I was hoping it would not, and I was very happy with that. There are sexual innuendos in this, but the characters, the main characters that you do see here, they do have sex, but it's kind of a fade to black, definitely closed door, so you don't see anything. So this gal her name is Violet. She writes a column in the newspaper. It's where people can submit a question about their love life or life in general, and she will answer. And she goes by Sweetie in it, so that it's called Dear Sweetie. And so she does that. The start of the book, she finds out she is up for syndication. I have no idea what that means, but evidently it's a big deal. And she goes home to tell her husband, because she is married, and that is not this guy. And she finds her husband. She gets home early. She finds her husband in bed naked, basically having sex with someone else in the neighborhood. So she walks in on her husband having an affair. That was unpleasant. I mean, the most you know is that they were having sex. Their limbs are entwined and they're both naked. That's how explicit that gets. But this was good. I gave this one 4 stars, like I had said. So you have the fallout of that relationship. This guy that you see here, his name is Des. He is a firefighter. He actually lives around the corner. At one point, they meet because Violet decides to burn some stuff in the middle of a street that belonged to her husband that cheated on her. And then, of course, the fire department shows up to put out the fire, and sparks fly between her and one of the firefighters, which is this guy named Des. So, a couple things with this one that I really liked. I liked the diversity in this one. You have LGBT rep in this, and it's done in such a natural way. It felt very natural. It wasn't done in a way where I felt like the author was trying to just say, hey, look, I included these in here. And they just kind of don't. It's like it doesn't add anything to the story. It does in this a little bit. It's hard to explain. I felt like it wasn't just a checkbox for the author to say, look at me, I'm inclusive type of a thing. It felt very natural in this, more realistic as far as that goes, if that makes sense. So you have a female, and you have a male talked about in this. The other thing is you have racial diversity. So Violet's boss, what's her name? Kiera? I can't remember. Yeah, Kiera. Kiera is black, and she's like the CEO of this newspaper. I feel like I've got something in my eye. I'm sorry. So she's black. Kiera is black, and she's a lesbian. So, or no, not a lesbian. I think she's bi. But she is in a female-female relationship. And at one point, Kiera, again, who is Violet's boss, they're also like best friends. And so Kiera can definitely say, pull your head out of your butt, you're acting like a fool type of a person. And at one point she says, look, you've got it easy. People will forgive you because of who you are. And things like that. And she's like, people will look for any chance, one slip up for me and try to take my place. But you have, are able to be forgiven. She's not. So I liked that representation in there. I feel like my eye, I am so sorry. Anyway, my eye, I feel like something's in it. Anyway, so I liked this one, and I would love to read more work by this author. This was just very enjoyable. There were parts I thought was funny. At one point, what is he referred to as? This sexy sage or something like that. A bed gets broken, and there's flying a kite. There's stuff. So there are innuendos in this, sexual innuendos, but it is a closed-door romance, so you're not seeing them actually have sex. And I don't know, I just really liked it. It was very sweet. It was funny. And during the course of the fallout with her husband, you see some stages of grief, of denial. One thing that it also talks about is alcoholism, or people turning to drown their grief in alcohol, of learning to stand up for yourself and being true to yourself. There's a lot of good messages in this, and so I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's the last prompt. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I fulfilled 6. Again, one of them was an ebook. So I fulfilled 6 of the prompts. I'm pretty happy with that, especially to do it very low key and things like that. So I will go ahead and go so I could check and see what's going on with my eye. Let me know what your favorite book was. If you participated if you happen to be a part of this Discord and participated in the Festival of Love readathon, let me know what your favorite read of the month was, or let me know whether or not you were in the Discord and participated in this. Let me know what your favorite read of the month was, what your favorite romance is that you've ever read, if you even read romance. And definitely let me know. Talk to me in the comment section below, and until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I'll talk to you later.